This is the best Cubs roster since.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen or watch every day. All right, the Cubs opening day roster is getting more and more into focus for both the Tokyo series on March 18th, and then the second opening day on March 27th. Some of this segment, Sam, will be discussing, okay, who's going over to Tokyo, what's the roster projection like, and then trying to figure out, hey, what is the roster looking like in terms of historical comparison, and maybe even putting a year on the last time the Cubs had this good of a roster. So Where would you like to start? Because there was some welcome roster news on Tuesday.
Yeah, let's start. By the way, as we record this, Tyson Miller just had a clean inning. Your wish, he granted that. Let's start with Matt Shaw making the roster cut to go to Tokyo, Japan to play against the Dodgers. This was the correct move for a lot of reasons. I would almost go as far as to say I was starting to get irritated that this was even a question at this
even a conversation.
Point. Yeah, look, he doesn't have to play both games, but this is your number one prospect, a pillar that you're hoping in your future. A young man, by the way, who's had a stellar brief cameo this spring, got another double today, another walk, is average in the 300 range. Man, I don't believe he's struck out, and if he has, I think it's just one time.
You're right, just one.
Played good third base. What else does he need to do? We missed out on Alex Bregman. He should be there now. He might not be fully ramped up, and for that reason, maybe he plays one, Workman plays the other, and Shaw comes in to pinch run late or something like that. But I thought it would have been a bad message to him not to have him travel there. I think he's done more than enough. I think this young man is going to play a huge role in this team's season, and I'm glad that he's going to be breaking camp with the big club.
Absolutely. So as of recording time here, we know the starters are likely going to be Happ, Seiya, Tucker, Bush, Swanson, Shaw, PCA, Amaya, and Birdie. Bench of Workman, Bruhan, Turner, and Kelly. Maybe we know Reese McGuire is
taxi squad
going to be the taxi squad catcher. That might be it for position players beyond maybe Kevin Alcantara being on the taxi squad as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then for pitchers, Steele, Imanaga, Tyone, and Boyd are all going over, but the latter two might not be on the active roster. And then a parade of relievers. And then, but we still have some uncertainty about a guy like Tyson Miller. Uncertainty about Daniel Palencia, Julian Merriweather, Eli Morgan, Nate Pearson haven't been confirmed. Keegan Thompson is staying back. We know Javier Assad is opening the year on the IL. By the way, Nico Horner, Sam, debuted Monday in a minor league game on the backfields.
He'll be ready.
He's still on track for March 27th. So
let's talk roster.
I think this is the best Cubs roster in a while. I do have a year in mind. But they have similar themes in each position group. They have a blend of veterans and young players for position players, for the rotation, and for the bullpen. It's all the same formula. You really upgraded the position group behind a star player and Kyle Tucker. You have Justin Steele, I would say, as your anchor in the rotation. And then you did acquire a guy in Ryan Presley who's closed hundreds and hundreds of games, including multiple games in the WS. So Plus, you have Craig Counsell, who's viewed inside and outside the game as one of the best managers in the game. And then you look at WAR, Sam. What is it good for? And according to Fangraphs WAR, for this upcoming season, they have a hitting projection of 29.3 as a full group, pitching projection of 13.6 as a full group. And best I can tell, okay, this roster on paper and with the computer is the best since 2017.
Wow.
The hitting WAR is the highest since 2016, 34.8 that year, and 13.6 for pitching would be the lowest since only a few years ago, 2022. But all these numbers put together, this is the best roster since in 8 years.
So this is what's funny to me about this show. And this is why I love having a daily podcast, because these things come up. Because yesterday on the show, you gave the Cubs a 33% chance to win the division.
Yeah,
and I 35, sorry. And I gave them 54, something weird like that.
Brian
right?
Urlacher.
And now I'm going to come on and tell you why I don't think it's the best roster since 2018. And you're telling me it is the best roster. It's a beautiful thing that we have going on here. Look, I hear what you're saying. I think hindsight's 2020 though. And when you go into 2019, okay, and you have Contreras, Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, Hayward. Well, I don't know why I said Hayward. Zobrist was still on that team. Lester, Hendricks, and those guys with their pedigree. I don't know if I could say that on paper. You know what I mean? I mean, even 2021, I have 2021 was the year I had. So I have that right in front of me. So the 2021, they had Contreras, Rizzo, Bodie, Bryant, Jock Peterson, Ian Happ, Hayward, Hendricks. The pitching obviously wasn't as good. They didn't have two guys. That was, the Arrieta year where he came back and wasn't the same guy and whatnot. But I don't know. I think it is fair to say that now, but I think in our mindsets, like in 2021, like we still viewed Chris Bryant as was Chris Bryant all that worse than Kyle Tucker at that point, going into it? You know what I mean? At least mindset wise, he wasn't very good in 2020, but 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, that was our Kyle Tucker. We didn't really have another guy like an Anthony Rizzo. We don't have that right now. I mean, you'd love it to be Suzuki or Happ, but I don't think we do. It just didn't work out. Baez finished second in the MVP voting in 2018. So heading into 2019, I mean, it's nitpicky. I hear what you're saying. But it does feel like a very deep roster, and one that if like we've talked about with PCA and Amaya, if those guys do their part, it could be a very fun deep team that has a good season. So I guess I'd probably say a little bit less, but I hear what you're saying.
And of course, the big question is, okay, how does this roster on paper or the computer translate to the real life results? And even the computers, there's a discrepancy before the jump, because we know Pacoda had them at 91 wins. Fangraphs has them at 84. And on the betting side, our great partners at FanDuel, they opened at 85.5, right? Was the opening?
Yep. Now it's up to 86.5.
Yep. And right now they're at 86.5.
It got to 87.5.
Yeah. Yep.
And then it came back down to 86. I think that jump was because of Bregman.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So that's the roster. How much does this roster cost? We're going to do, this is not a promise, but this is the intention. One final payroll check until July. I don't know if we're going to stick to that, but we're going to try next.
This episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Right here, and I've upgraded to the bigger bag. I have the chili roasted flavor that I have been loving for quite a while now. I'm a grazer throughout the day, guys. I don't have time for a full meal in the middle of work. So if I'm in between meetings or equipment runs, these little green wonders pack the protein punch I need to get me through the day. And I can't recommend the chili roasted kind enough. It is absolutely packed with flavor. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Pending a surprise move, the Cubs luxury tax payroll to begin the 2025 campaign is about $215 million, and that ranks 14th in baseball.
Wow.
It's $26 million under the first threshold of 241. It represents a sizable reduction from the 2024 total of 238. The Cubs could get close to that total or so, depending on their in-season moves. Owner Tom Ricketts did tell multiple outlets in January that he expects the luxury tax payroll to be close to the first threshold by the final day of the season. However, those comments, if you recall, were made when multiple free agents like Tanner Scott and Alex Bregman were still on the board, and now they're wearing other teams' uniforms. Sam, I curious to put a label on it, but do you have any final thoughts on how much they actually spent? And don't get me wrong, the roster is better than last year. Could be best in 8 years, maybe at least in 4, as we pointed out last segment. But it was a sizable reduction from last year. As now it's settling in, and they're going to roll out the ball to the mound next Tuesday. What do you think about where they ended up at the bank?
Yeah, no, I have thoughts. Absolutely. I think people sometimes get confused at my thoughts on this. Let me be very clear. I'm not trying to spend Tom Ricketts' money. That's his money to spend. I'm simply pointing out this. When you have a payroll of $215 million, you're going to have holes on your team. That's why we had to do biggest concerns. The Dodgers don't have any holes because they go, you know what? That could be a potential hole. Go get somebody. Here's a check. So the Cubs, we have to go into this season with the idea, look, I'm not going to give my win total away yet. Let's save that maybe for Monday. Okay.
Let's do that for Monday.
Yeah. But I'll say this. I think the floor of this team is low 80s. I think the ceiling for this team is low 90s. When you do that math, that averages out to be an upper 80s win team. When you're an upper 80s win team, that's a pretty good baseball team, but you're going to need help. You're going to need the team up north to be worse. You're going to need Cincinnati not to be good. And guess what? When you need help, that means you didn't do enough and you have holes in your team. And the Cubs have decided for bottom line reasons, private equity reasons, we don't really know why, but they've decided to cut their budget. I think Jed Hoyer deserves a ton of credit because you just mentioned it in your introductory part of this segment. They've improved their team while cutting payroll. Not easy to do.
Right.
Not easy to do. But they could have eliminated some holes if they had a guy like Tanner Scott. If they had a starting pitcher that you could slot between Imanaga and Steele. They could have made this a lot easier on themselves, but they're $215 million. What Tom Ricketts wants to do with his money, he could do. He signs the checks. He owns the team. I'm not spending it for him. I'm just simply pointing out when you have a $215 million team, you're going to need to outperform some projections, and you're going to need a little bit of luck because you are going to have holes at that number. Is that fair?
It is, and that all of those reasons also apply to my division winning percentage of 35.
Mm-hmm.
I respect the Brewers a lot.
They were all over Justin Steele today, by the way.
I respect the Reds offense. I respect the Pirates pitching. I think the Cardinals really are going to genuinely struggle. Eventually, I don't know about right off the bat, but I think for them it will be not a great campaign.
Agree.
Because they literally are bringing back the same roster. It's actually
we're going to face
we're
going to face Skeens all 12 games.
I have to say, Skeens, Jones, Keller. They have this dude Bubba Chandler coming up. That strikes some fear in me. It does.
Should.
The first time Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McClain get on first base, what's the plan? Because you better pick over before you throw the first pitch to the next guy.
Well, Kelly's looked pretty good throwing out runners, though.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And the Brewers, okay, especially Yelich, he's making a full-time move to DH. Contreras, one of the best catchers in the game. Churio, one of the better outfielders in this game in only his second year.
Frelick, done.
They're not to be trifled with, folks. And the hard reality of that is the Brewers, Reds, and Pirates, despite the Cubs' lack of getting to the threshold, they have spent way less.
Yeah, it's true.
And they might beat you. Okay, so that is a concern, but that's reality.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Great. So they're going to make a trade. That's months from now. Is that even going to be in time? Okay, the deadline was announced today, Thursday, July 31.
Thank
That's
goodness.
so long from now. You're going to be well over 100 games in.
You're going to have an Abraham Lincoln beard by that time.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm shaving Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, I hear what you said, and I think you have to play to your strengths. The Cubs' strength in this division is their market, their money. And so, yes, they're spending more, but they should spend even more than more, because the one strength that they don't have is they don't develop players like the Brewers do. They don't win on the margins like the Brewers do. They don't have the team speed that the Brewers do. They don't have the organizational scouting department that the Brewers do. They don't develop pitching like the Brewers do. I mean, there's a long list, because the Brewers have been better for the Cubs every year since 2018 outside of a 60-game season.
100%.
So, I think the Cubs are going to win the division this year. And by the way, 54% isn't a lock. I'm leaving a 46% window there. If I thought it was a done deal, it'd be in the 90s, like the Sox losing 100+ baseball games.
Absolutely.
That feels just about as certain as taxes do. But I'll say this. I think that,
bad take.
They could have done more. And
especially in the rotation.
Yeah, they didn't. And so we'll see how it goes. But I ultimately think that I don't want to talk about payroll, because if we're not talking about payroll, it means things are going well. I would love to celebrate a 92-70 campaign, beat out the Brewers by 7 or so games, clinch in mid to late September, have a show celebrating. I'll hoist a banner, write my background, division champs, because it'll feel like we were a part of that as well, even though that makes no sense. And, that's the goal this year, and they better get it done.
Yeah. So I think for Thursday, we're going to discuss
You're going to shave
2 games in Japan. And then for Monday, we'll do like our win totals. And for that episode, we do need to make all the pronouncements. We got to get them out. We got to get them out for one last time, because I will say this. And granted, 35% to win the division.
I know this.
But if they don't win the division,
oh boy,
it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And people will lose jobs, by the way.
Of course.
Okay, people will not be brought back. And namely Jed Hoyer, of course, but
will you be doing any mountain moving? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be leaving no stone unturned for
okay.
They're at risking a lot if they don't make the playoffs this year. Now, that's just my opinion. But I think there really could be a domino effect for that non-appearance in the postseason.
I wish it was higher than the 35% chance then.
Coming up next, Marquee Sports Network and 670 The Score. We're going to get into they're planning right after this.
This episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, they're free. Their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5, that's SH5, for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
Alex Cohen and Jim Deshaies will call the Tokyo series for Marquee Sports Network. Taylor McGregor will join them on site as well. Those three will also have the exhibition, which is this Friday at 10 p.m. Central. Remember, 14-hour difference. That's going to be a noon game over there. And then also 5 a.m. Central on Sunday. And again, 5 a.m. Central is prime time there at 7 p.m. In Tokyo. Boog Shambi is calling the Big 12 tournament for ESPN. You might be saying, well, Matt, that's this week. Correct. As you're listening to this, everybody, including the broadcast team, is in the air. So Boog calling the tournament this week puts them out for opening day next week, because the whole traveling party has already been gone. Remember, Alex Cohen is the full-time backup for Boog this year after spending the last several years with the AAA Iowa Cubs. That does mean that Pat Hughes will not be doing Sunday games for Marquee. Not sure about Beth Mowens in the mix anymore either. And then here is a really striking thing. Not so much that they're staying here, but just the reality of it. And we could share a little bit in this too, because Sam is doing a watch along, granted at 5:10 on Tuesday, right here on our YouTube channel. But Sam, Pat Hughes and Ron Coomer are calling the first two games for 670 The Score. They're still the full-time duo on radio. They're amazing. They're great. They will not, though, be in Japan, and instead will be announcing from the Wrigley Field radio booth. Mm-hmm. So imagine, what's the call time for that? They're going to walk into Wrigley at like literally 3:30 a.m. and then the pregame is at 4:35 a.m. from the Wrigley booth. I don't know if they're going to wake up the neighbors or what. So it's just it's like bizarre. I don't fault them necessarily for staying. I'm just saying kind of the reality of it's like is kind of disruptive almost. But those are the plans for them.
Games on Fox.
And the game's on Fox, which
I'll be watching for the watch along.
Wow.
For the watch along.
Do you care to expand on that? Or
yeah, absolutely. It's less of a delay for me, I believe.
Okay, right, because you're not going to hear the audio, obviously.
Right. It's just for Marquee, I'll sample it, but
Marquee's quite delayed.
I think it'll be less of a delay. So
Fox hasn't announced the announcers yet. But I have to imagine it's Joe Davis because he's a Dodgers announcer.
It'll be Joe Davis.
Wouldn't he be making the trip?
Should be Davis and Smoltz, right?
Yes, but then who calls the game for Sportsnet LA? I guess I don't care, but
no, they don't. That Fox has precedent. That's why he misses tons of games on Saturdays for them. They got to back up. Yeah. Look, it's such a outlier situation. Whatever they want to do to get it done is fine. Just come home with a victory. But I hear you. It's important. Matt, before we get out of here, could I just
Will you watch the exhibitions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Are you kidding? It's my life. It's a Friday night at 10 o'clock. It's perfect for me. I'll be home by myself.
Maybe I'll come over for that one.
Come over. Well, you're going to be sleeping by 11. I could be a night owl. I got some NBA on, maybe get a little, get a late night snack, some food, and I'll be watching that. I'll be watching that till the 27th out. Can I just make a couple notes?
That's why you're you. You're the
I
best.
know you're going to be upset at me. On Tuesday afternoon, the Cubs had another poor showing with their pitching.
Yes.
I just want to say this. Look, I have zero concern. I'm not even going to mention Justin Steele. In fact, it's probably good that he had a bad outing. He doesn't typically have 2 in a row. But
he gave up, like 12 runs?
No, like 7. 10 hits and 3 2/3. But that's fine. Matt, Porter Hodge can't walk people this year. He came in.
Walk guys today?
He came in the 9th. He gave up a run. He walked 2 more guys. I've been watching him very closely this spring. And one thing, I don't think he's tipping or anything, but guys aren't really swinging at his slider a whole lot out of the zone, and I'm a little bit concerned.
Sure.
I really hope he comes in, and because he's going to pitch in LA and hopefully in a spot that they're winning. And it's just, I know he's got great stuff, and his numbers overall in the spring are fine. I think he's at about a 3.60 now, but I just the walk numbers, if you're going to close, you can't walk people. And so I just wanted to point that out. No concern about Steele. No concern about Imanaga. Get those bad starts out of the way. They'll be sharp, ready to go to face the Dodgers, who, by the way, are in mid-season form. They put up 10-something runs today. Sasaki looked great. Yamamoto looked great yesterday. Ohtani, Freeman, Tommy Edman versus lefties. Their Cubs are going to have 2 of them. He'll have a big day. He had 2 homers last year off Imanaga. Remember that?
Well, their over-under's 105.5. I mean,
is that what it is now?
Yeah.
Wow. That's about as high as I've ever heard.
100%. No, they're not. They're the real deal. Talk about best rosters. I think they have one of the best rosters ever.
I mean, especially with the names on their pitching staff. Snell, Glasnow, Sasaki, Yamamoto, Kershaw, Scott, Ohtani. Eesh. Those TV deals, man. Get a good.
Wow.
Sometimes you get a little bit, you get a little bit fortunate with when you negotiate. You get $330 million plus a year, and now all of a sudden you're, the modern day 20s Yankees with Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode. We are here 5 days a week, talking about all things Cubs. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube as we make the push to 13,000 subs, and we're streaming worldwide on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SiriusXM, and more. I will be back on Thursday. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy, and you are now Locked On Cubs.
It's a bad take.